So Kemp's going to talk for a minute about solutions to pollution.
In between you and lunch. That's okay, because when I was kind of going over this presentation, it was actually shorter than it says on the program, so that's good. I'll try to keep it that way. We called this talk Solutions to Pollution on the agenda because we wanted to talk a bit about the good stuff that's happening in our community and the good stuff that's happening because of our community to protect and improve water quality. And really, I shouldn't be giving this talk. Rob Clark, our water quality programs manager, should be giving this talk because a lot of what is covered here is the work that he leads. Rob is out of town, however, and so I get to talk about the great stuff he's been up to. Rob organizes our cleanups, our Litter-Trap and Trash Trout programs, our Creek Watchers Citizen Science program, and our Swim Guide program. So sometimes the right thing to do is to roll up your sleeves and just pick up trash. Cleanups have always been part of what Riverwatch has done, and the reason they've always been part of what Riverwatch does is because it gets people involved in a really tangible way in protecting and improving their watershed. So, quick show of hands, how many people here have come out to a Cape Fear Riverwatch cleanup? Wow. Hands down. How many people have come out to 5 or more Cape Fear Riverwatch cleanups? That's awesome. Thank you all. We used to do a cleanup on the second Saturday of every month, so 12 cleanups a year, but Rob has changed that. So far, in the first 5 months of this year, Rob and his volunteers have done 16 cleanups. That puts us on pace to do 38 cleanups this year. 391 volunteers, 766 volunteer hours, 1,893 pounds of recycling, 12,605 pounds of non-recyclables for a total of 14,498 pounds of trash just in the first 5 months of this year. He expects that he'll clean up with help from many of those hands you just saw, 30,000 pounds of trash this year or more. And so that's 30,000 pounds of trash kept out of waterways and ultimately 30,000 pounds of trash kept out of the ocean. And there's been a real awakening lately about the giant trash gyres in the world's oceans, and that's fantastic, of course, that we're understanding, how horrible those trash gyres are. But I think even with all the discussion about ocean plastics, many people still don't really understand where that trash comes from. We're not taking huge barges of trash out into the middle of the ocean and then just dumping all the trash off. Nobody does that. All of that trash comes from urban stormwater. And so if you want to stop ocean plastic, come join Rob on a cleanup and pick up trash in the small ditches that lead to larger streams and eventually the river and eventually the ocean. Rob hasn't just increased the number of cleanups we do. He has changed how we approach some of the most challenging sites. If you followed local news, you've seen that our city is struggling to decide how it approaches the issue of homelessness. The same issue is facing hundreds, if not thousands, of cities and towns across this country. Encampments of unhoused people can present a challenge when it comes to trash. There are no trash services for encampment, even though they represent semi-permanent communities for folks in our area that do not have traditional housing. No refrigeration means single-serving, plastic-wrapped food. And living outside can quickly ruin the personal items that you have. Rob has worked with residents of a large encampment in the headwaters of a large tributary of the Cape Fear River estuary to help solve the trash issue there. Resident volunteers are now bagging trash on a regular basis, so Rob and an average of just 6 volunteers routinely remove around 900 pounds of trash per visit to the property, disposing of it properly, keeping that trash out of our waterways, and helping to improve a community that many of us never see. When Rob came to Riverwatch, we were just getting started on a new approach to litter collection, and we knew that no matter how many cleanups we did, we were still going to find trash in our river. So along with riverkeepers across North Carolina, and funded by an environmental enhancement grant that my distinguished colleague, Emily, wrote, we decided to collect litter 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And we would do it without even getting in the field. We installed these across the state, passive litter collection devices called trash trouts. Ours was installed in the headwater of Burnt Mill Creek, the headwaters of Burnt Mill Creek on the left there, so that every time it rained, floating trash would be collected by the trash trout until we could come and get it. So far, we've cleaned the trout 11 times, and we've removed 1,382 pieces of trash, the vast majority of that trash plastic. This year, we're adding 2 more trash trouts as part of another grant. And actually, there was a lot more to the trash trout plan for a year before we installed this trash trout. Waterkeepers across North Carolina and Cape Fear Riverwatch took samples and monitored the amount of microplastics that we found in these waterways prior to placing these trash trouts. We've had the trash trout in place for almost a year, and when that year is up, what we want to do is sample again and see that if removing macroplastics from a waterway decreases the amount of microplastics that you have in that waterway. Because if a family goes fishing in an area that has a lot of microplastics in it, and they take that fish home and they put it on their dinner table, they're now eating microplastics too. And so that has serious impacts on human health. Rob took passive litter collection, the idea of passive litter collection to new levels after seeing the success of the trash trout. And through a grant he wrote, he bought 4 litter traps, devices that are inserted directly into storm drains to collect trash even before it gets into local waterways. He's testing these devices, carefully documenting all the trash he pulls out. And so far in 35 cleanouts, he's removed over 1,600 pieces of trash from local storm drains, and we'll be adding 10 more of these devices to strategic locations where we know litter is an issue next year. Actually, we'll be doing that this year. In 2022, Rob worked with one of our amazing interns. We have a ton of amazing interns. Many of them are here today. Connor Willis was a sociology intern, and he had kind of this ambitious idea aimed at reducing trash and also doing a little bit more for the community. Rob and Connor collected litter 50 feet in either direction of 185 wave transit bus stops. They collected 22,000, almost 23,000 pieces of trash, and they also collected bus stop infrastructure data. Like, was there a trash can at the bus stop? Was there a shelter or a bench? And they also collected demographic data. After analyzing that data, we sat down with Wave Transit, and we shared our findings and our concerns that there was not an equitable distribution of bus stop infrastructure like trash cans in lower income neighborhoods, which led to increased trash in some areas. 1 week ago, Wave Transit announced that they were adding and upgrading bus shelters. Most new stops include additional bus stop infrastructure like trash cans. In every one of these projects, you'll recall how carefully Rob collected data. He's also conducted dozens of trash transects where he records the type and quantity of trash found in 3 separate 30-meter sections of stream banks. And what he has found across hundreds of data sets, whether it's traditional cleanups or trash trouts or litter traps or these trash transects, is that 80 to 85% of what he pulls out is plastic. Not glass or paper or metal, plastic. So think about that the next time you hear a story about a trash gyre that's twice the size of Texas. Remember where that trash